Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. As I'm making this video, Hurricane Melissa is crossing over Jamaica. I can only assume that it's going to cause a lot of damage. It seems like it already has based on some video and pictures that are coming out of there. And this is a much bigger event than what I realized when it first came on my radar. So I want to show you a few things that I'm looking at and share some of my thoughts. We're going to start with some posts from X. This is from Mark Susko. Strongest Atlantic hurricanes by atmospheric pressure. So at the time that this was put out, which was just a couple hours ago at the time I'm making this, it looks like Melissa is tied for third. These are Atlantic hurricanes. So Wilma is in first place. That's back in 2005, which is kind of interesting. I was thinking about this when I first saw this, that, you know, I'm going to repeat what I've already said before. In April 2004 General Conference, President Oaks, at the time Elder Oaks, gave his big Second Coming talk called Preparation for the Second Coming. And we've already talked about the fact that, you know, he goes through a list of signs of the times to look for. He talked about the sea heaving itself beyond its bounds. And then later that year, the day after Christmas, there was a large earthquake and tsunami that struck Indonesia and several other countries, killing over 200,000. This is also the same year, by what I'm tracking, that you started having all these really large record-breaking wildfires, right? Well, this is a new one that I didn't realize before, is that in the Atlantic, we had Wilma just a month or just a year later. They had the lowest atmospheric pressure. So, and now in 2025, just like a couple weeks after President Oaks became president of the church, now we have this other really big hurricane. I don't know much about Wilma. I'll probably have to go back and see what happened with that. But what I do know is that Melissa is certainly going to be catastrophic for Jamaica. Okay, and then we have this. This is from Max Velocity. He's on YouTube. He's my favorite weather person to watch. Breaking: Hurricane Melissa has officially made landfall, tying the strongest hurricane to ever make landfall in the Atlantic Ocean at 892, I think MB is millibars, and 185 mile per hour winds. So at first I was confused. I think what this is referring to, well, actually, yeah, I highlighted it in the CNN article, is that this is just talking about all hurricanes, whether they make landfall or not. So if you take all hurricanes together, it seems that Melissa is tied for third. But when it comes to hurricanes that have made landfall, Melissa is tied for first, as strongest to make landfall over any land, I guess. Okay. We got this. This is Into the Fray. Melissa is in apocalyptic storm. I always have to point this out whenever we see news stories or X posts or something on social media. When you have things like this happen, it puts these kind of ideas in people's minds, even if they don't necessarily believe in the Bible or Christianity, or, you know, even if they're atheist. The fact is that they're using these terms, apocalyptic. And I feel like that's enough to convey a message. Say that this person's like an atheist. Well, this should be a message to this person. Yes, this is literally apocalyptic. That's why you're using this word. And I think for some people, they get it, especially if it's happening to them, if they're like in Jamaica right now, for example, or the affected area. Sometimes I think that it can break the pride cycle and bring you closer to God, and kind of tear down your world, and hopefully you can reconstruct yourself spiritually and then temporally afterwards. But this person points out it's an apocalyptic storm. We got this from Paul Gross, at Gross Weather. Hurricane Melissa's intense lead eye wall is now battering Jamaica's coast. Areas experiencing the eye wall could see near complete destruction of structures and infrastructure. Pray for Jamaica. Okay, this is Noah Berggren. Horrible. Worst case scenario is unfolding. Really, I am near a loss of words. Last chance to protect life at all costs, quote unquote, is the words from NHC. Melissa is about to make landfall at its strongest intensity. A humanitarian disaster is about to unfold. The hurricane hunters detected 252 mile per hour gusts, 300 feet off the ocean surface, 185 mile per hour max sustained winds, and 220 plus mile per hour gust in the eye wall, about to obliterate Black River area. This is a really big thing, you guys. Let's see. Mike Susko says, wait, did we already look at this? Gosh, I don't know how this happens. I feel like this happens anytime I pull up Expo. Sorry, that was a duplicate. Okay, Craig CC PhD. The last time a sub 900 pressure was recorded on land in the Western Hemisphere, and the only time, was in the 1935 Labor Day hurricane. This is a once-in-a-lifetime storm that is happening. Once-in-a-lifetime storm, you guys. And it's happening just a couple weeks after President Oaks becomes president of the church. I don't think that that's coincidence. By the way, in case you didn't watch this video, I made a video yesterday called General Conference in Category 5 Hurricane Melissa, strongest ever to hit Jamaica. Well, at this point, that is now confirmed. It is the strongest to hit Jamaica. But I pointed out, and this was with the help of my friend Mindy with Temples of Jesus channel, a lot of people were impacted by this talk by Elder Kevin G. Brown because it was very passionate. And guess what? He's from Jamaica. And he actually talks about his conversion and how it happened in Jamaica. He has this section of his talk called Finding Testimony in Jamaica. And then we have Elder Peter M. Johnson of the 70. He's from the United States, but he grew up in a neighborhood of New York City called Jamaica. And then we have Sister Tracy Y. Browning, who's also from the United States, but as she was growing up, for part of that time, she lived in Jamaica. This reminded me of the April 2010 General Conference talk by Elder Koichi Aoyagi of the 70. He's from Japan. In his talk, he used the word tsunamis. And then 11 months later, on March 11th of 2011, Japan experienced a 9.0 earthquake and ensuing tsunami that was very destructive. This was his first time speaking in General Conference, and then he spoke only one other time in 2015. And in that talk, he talked about his experience with that earthquake and tsunami. And again, we've already talked about President Oaks back in 2004 and everything that's happened since that time. Like starting with that year, record-breaking wildfires. You had the tsunami in Indonesia. Now we have this hurricane that we were just talking about. What was it again? Wilma in 2005. And now in 2025, he's now president of the church. And it's already been a really, really wild ride. These are signs of the times, you guys. And then we got this. This is Andrew Austin Adler. Hashtag Melissa now broken the world record for driest eye ever observed in a tropical cyclone. Okay. I want to look that one up and just make sure. I'm sure this person is reporting accurately, but I just want to see that in a news article. But yeah, world record. So not just the Atlantic, but like all tropical cyclones. This is the driest eye wall ever observed. Okay, something is going on with this hurricane. We're going to look at this CNN live blog that they have going on. There are a few things here. Okay, right now, Hurricane Melissa has made landfall near New Hope, Jamaica, as a excuse me, as a 185 mile per hour Category 5 storm, according to the National Hurricane Center. It will track directly over the island. You know, um, at the beginning of a hurricane, there's always some degree of uncertainty exactly where it's going to go, and you have the different tracks, like the spaghetti model of like where it could possibly go. Um, when I made the last video, it didn't seem like it was going to go directly over the island, like it was going to go just mostly like over the western part, but it seems that it's going to go directly over. Well, I don't know. This is still showing kind of like the western part. I don't know. Maybe it is still just the western part, but it will track directly over the island for the next few hours, bringing catastrophic winds, flooding rain, and life-threatening storm surge. The next section is Storm of the Century. Melissa will cause quote-unquote catastrophic damage, Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness told CNN. The nation has never taken a hit from a Category 5, with a UN agency describing it as the quote-unquote storm of the century. You guys, this is being called all sorts of things. Apocalyptic, storm of the century. We're going to skip down. What the hurricane is like. Melissa made landfall at around 1 p.m. Eastern Time near New Hope, Jamaica. Its 185 mile per hour winds make it the strongest storm on record to smash into the country. Melissa is also tied as the second strongest hurricane in Atlantic history in terms of wind speed. Later on, about 240,000 people were without power before landfall as the grid was strained. And I can only imagine that that's going to get even worse. What people are saying, a restaurant owner in the village of Alligator Pond on the southwest coast of Jamaica said, quote unquote, the whole coastline is gone. So please say prayers for Jamaica if you can. Please support them with donations or in any way that you can. No doubt the church is going to be involved with humanitarian efforts and relief. There's a new update. Widespread internet outages reported across Jamaica. Roads and bridges are flooded. Okay. So let's move on from that. So I've gone ahead and I've added this to my spreadsheet called Timeline Second Coming. I have not put a reference yet because no doubt I'm going to come back and update the content of this cell because we're going to find out exactly what will have happened as a result of this hurricane. Because, you know, this is an event that's in progress. Maybe there's going to be record-breaking damage and you know, possibly deaths as a result of this. So I'm going to wait for some of those details to come out. But you know, you can pause and read this. There's been a lot going on in September and October. All this definitely coincides with this transition between President Nelson and President Oaks. Some of these things taking place the day of or the day after things like President Nelson's birthday and the day that he passed away and his funeral and things like that. It is just stunning to watch. I have updated this spreadsheet. It's called Signs Hurricanes 2, where it's a tally of all the hurricanes by category, both in the Atlantic and the Pacific. So for the Atlantic, it's notable that we've had 3 Category 5 hurricanes this year, including this one, Hurricane Melissa. You have to go all the way back to 2005 to have a number that's the same or greater. 2005 saw 4 Category 5 hurricanes, and one of those was Wilma. So that's interesting. Again, 2005, that's the year after President Oaks' Second Coming talk. And then 2025 is the year that he became president of the church. So that's interesting. And then in the Pacific, I guess there isn't anything I really want to point out with that so far. We'll have to see what these numbers look like once the hurricane season is officially over. And then I've added this to Signs Hurricanes Hurricanes 1. This is a relatively new spreadsheet. Again, I'm going to wait until more information comes in about the effects of Hurricane Melissa, but I have this on here now. The last one that I put on here was from July 1st, 2024. That was Hurricane Beryl. It became the earliest Atlantic Category 5 hurricane ever recorded. Excuse me. And then let's not forget what happened in 2023. This was in the Indian Ocean. Cyclone Freddy ends. Longest lasting and most powerful tropical cyclone ever recorded worldwide. Deadliest tropical cyclone on record for Africa. Second deadliest for entire southern hemisphere with 1,434 deaths. So we're seeing some pretty notable hurricanes / cyclones / typhoons. It's all the same thing, just different names. Within just the last few years, we have, at least one event per year of these like really notable hurricanes. Signs of the times. Yeah, these are signs of the times. So, okay, well, that's all that I have for this one. Again, pray for Jamaica. Let's hope that it's not as bad as it seems like it's going to be. And I'll talk to you guys later.